Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. The story of Ukraine waiting for Russian commanders to gather inside a base before striking with 2 guided bomb units is one of patience, strategy, precision, and modern military calculation. It is not just about the physical act of releasing bombs onto a structure, but about the layers of planning that built toward that moment and the consequences that followed it. To understand it fully, one must examine the outward appearance of events, the hidden inner workings, the actual performance of the weapons involved, the safety precautions embedded in the plan, the unique features that made this strike stand apart, the cost that came with it, and finally, the broader conclusion about what it means for modern conflict. Each of these aspects is woven into the larger fabric of the incident, and together they tell a story that is both tactical and symbolic, technical and psychological, immediate and long-lasting. The outward image of the base before the strike gave every appearance of stability and order. From a distance, it was just another fortified military installation, guarded and seemingly secure. To those entering and leaving, it represented a hub of power where Russian leadership could gather, communicate, and reinforce authority. The exterior was the shell of confidence, presenting the idea that commanders were safe within its walls, shielded by concrete, defenses, and loyal troops. But as with many things in warfare, the exterior view hid vulnerabilities beneath. Ukraine's intelligence services and operational planners saw beyond the walls and fortifications. They were not distracted by the strong facade or the visible confidence of enemy commanders moving inside. Instead, they read the structure as something temporary, something fragile once the right weapons were brought to bear. The exterior tells us much about perceptions. What looks invulnerable to one side can be an exposed target to the other. Ukraine turned that perception into a weapon, allowing the Russians to trust what they saw while preparing to exploit what lay unseen. Inside the base, the interior dynamic was very different. Here, the commanders felt in control. They entered the rooms expecting to discuss strategy, logistics, and operations, unaware that every moment spent inside was narrowing the window of their survival. The interior was where decisions were made, where authority was reinforced, and where hierarchy played out. But for Ukraine, the interior became the target. It was not the walls or the guards that mattered, it was the people inside them. This simple shift in focus turned the interior from a place of power into a liability. What was meant to be a safe core became the exact point of vulnerability. The interior also reflects the heart of the planning on the Ukrainian side. Intelligence was not wasted on chasing distractions or striking empty buildings. It was concentrated on ensuring that when the weapons hit, the rooms would contain those whose loss would matter most. The interior aspect of this operation highlights the brutal clarity of modern strategic thinking. Safety is no longer about walls, but about whether the enemy knows when and where they are being watched. The performance of the operation is where the story takes on its sharpest edge. Guided bomb units are designed for accuracy and impact, and their performance in this strike was flawless. The bombs struck at the exact moment required, delivering devastating force against the structure and those within. Performance here must be understood on multiple levels. At the mechanical level, the weapons did exactly what they were built to do, navigating with precision and detonating with destructive efficiency. At the tactical level, the operation succeeds, dead in hitting its intended targets, leaving no ambiguity about the results. At the psychological level, the performance extended far beyond the immediate damage. It demonstrated to Russian forces that safety in such an operation is not about protecting the enemy, but about protecting one's own forces and minimizing collateral consequences. Ukraine carefully built safety features into this strike. First was the reliance on intelligence and patience, which reduced the risk of wasted effort or striking the wrong targets. By confirming the presence of commanders before acting, Ukraine ensured that the strike would have maximum effect with minimal redundancy. Second was the use of precision-guided weapons rather than indiscriminate artillery or rocket fire. The guided bombs limited the radius of destruction, focusing the energy on the target itself while reducing the likelihood of unintended damage around the site. Third was the secrecy of preparation. Ukrainian planners maintained operational silence, ensuring that no premature moves revealed their intent. This secrecy kept their own assets safe and preserved the element of surprise. Safety in this sense was about maximizing efficiency, protecting resources, and avoiding actions that could create unnecessary blowback. It was as much a part of the planning as the strike itself. The unique selling points of this operation are what make it stand out from the countless other military actions occurring in the conflict. The first, and perhaps most important, was patience. Ukraine resisted the urge to strike too soon. They allowed commanders to gather, allowed them to feel secure, and only then acted. In warfare, patience can be harder to master than aggression, but here it was the key to success. The second unique point was precision. The use of advanced guided bombs turned this from a blunt attack into a surgical strike. It was not about flattening a base, but about targeting leadership at the very moment they were most vulnerable. The third was the psychological element. By striking at the leaders themselves, Ukraine proved this is. At no one is untouchable, that authority figures are as vulnerable as ordinary soldiers when intelligence and timing align against them. These unique aspects combine to elevate the operation beyond routine combat, making it a symbol of how modern warfare is fought and won. Price is a critical dimension in understanding this strike. Financially, guided bomb units are expensive weapons. Their production, transport, and deployment involve significant costs. On the surface, using 2 such bombs might seem costly for a single operation. But warfare is not measured only in dollars. The return on investment in this case was immense. By eliminating high-ranking commanders, Ukraine disrupted enemy operations far more effectively than by destroying tanks or ammunition. The loss of leadership creates confusion, slows decision-making, and undermines morale. Beyond financial cost, there is the price of patience, the investment of time and intelligence resources. Waiting for the right moment required discipline, surveillance, and coordination. This was not a simple task, but an ongoing effort. Yet this price too was worth paying, as the impact of the strike went far beyond its immediate results. There is also the price paid by Russia, not only in lives lost, but in the psychological shock and operational disruption that followed. The price of this strike, when measured against its outcome, was more than justified. The conclusion that can be drawn from this incident is that modern conflict is no longer about sheer force, but about the intelligent use of resources. Ukraine demonstrated that by combining patience, intelligence, and advanced technology, even the most fortified enemy positions can be transformed into vulnerabilities. The exterior confidence of the Russian commanders, the interior authority of their meetings, the performance of Ukraine's guided bombs, the safety built into the plan, the unique aspects of patience and precision, and the price invested in time, resources, and weapons all add up to a story of strategic mastery. The strike was more than an attack. It was a statement that leadership itself is not safe when faced with an opponent who understands how to wait and when to act. The broader implications stretch into the future of the conflict. For Ukraine, it proved capability and reinforced the value of Western-supplied weapons. It showed allies that their support translates into real battlefield success and that Ukraine can use advanced systems responsibly and effectively. For Russia, it was a wake-up call that no place is beyond reach and no leader immune from risk. The sense of safety that commanders once felt in fortified structures has been eroded, replaced by the knowledge that even their strongest positions can be compromised by patience and precision. For the world watching, the strike was a glimpse into the nature of modern warfare, where intelligence, patience, and technology outweigh brute force and numbers. This event will likely be studied as an example of how targeted strikes can reshape conflict. It illustrates that leadership, once thought of as protected by walls and distance, is now as exposed as the frontline soldier. It also highlights how discipline in timing can be as decisive as any weapon. Ukraine's choice to wait turned a routine strike into a symbol of strategic control. It was not just about destroying a base, but about dismantling the illusion of safety and authority. That is the lasting impact of this operation, and that is why it will be remembered not only for the destruction it caused, but for the lessons it taught about patience, precision, and the changing face of war.